Good morning. It's Angela from FREA, Finding Recovery and Empowerment from Abuse. And our website is FREA.support or FREA.support. So that's our .com is .support. So when you go to look for it, you'll be able to find this video and a bunch of other videos that we'll be talking about shortly. So welcome to Holly Timberlake. She is one of the FREA board members, and I have been very slowly doing interviews of each of the board members. And so a committee member, actually, I misspoke there. We are committee members, not board members. And we are a working committee, and we are all active in our own communities and with our own people in spreading the goodness of what FREA has to offer in energy psychology. And that is what brings us together today. So I'd like to invite you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, Holly. How did you find FREA, or how did FREA find you?
Okay, well, hi, Angela. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good
here, but you know.
Yeah.
So first of all, let me just say, because maybe it matters to somebody, that I'm a PhD level licensed psychologist. I'm a diplomat with energy psychology, diplomate, I guess is what it's referred to. And I have actually been doing tapping or EFT and a lot of additional components to energy-based therapy work for over 20 years. So anyway, just to let you know, I'm in private practice in Ohio. I'm in Ohio, Hudson, Ohio, near Cleveland. So what brought me, I think partly was that combination of being part of the energy psychology world, which a number of years ago was a pretty small world. It's a much, much bigger world now because energy psychology, largely because of tapping and EFT, has just grown, like it's just unbelievable. It's like grown like wildfire, over the past number of years. But anyway, so I was a part of that, and I have been a friend of the person who started FREA, who really wanted to start FREA, Robin Trainer, and was asked to do this a number of years ago. When she first asked me, I didn't do it. I think I'm probably doing something else or whatever. But the more I thought about it, the more I really wanted to get involved for a number of reasons. I'm a trauma therapist. So I've done a lot of work with people who have been emotionally, verbally, and physically abused, traumatized, sometimes really profoundly, if we could use that word, traumatized in really kind of brutal ways. So I've really had an experience of a range of working with different kinds of trauma with people. And to join together with a group of people whose mission was to really bring the skills that we have to help other people that we couldn't help by, what I'm able to do here, was something that really became a lot more important to me. And so I've been a member of FREA for, 5 years, something like that now. And my interest is a lot in training. At this point in my career, I've been doing therapy for quite a while now, and I'm really moving into a stronger interest in therapy, in training.
Yes, what I really love about the tools in FREA, which is why I was drawn to it, was that so many of them, they help us self-resource. Mm-hmm. And that's very empowering for us as humans. And so that was a big part of our conversation last week about what we wanted to emphasize, is that these tools are really, they're just like a hammer or a screwdriver that we might carry around in the back of our car in case, we needed to repair something. We carry these around. Once we own them, they're ours. Mm-hmm. So in that way, what have you noticed? How have you noticed that energy medicine tools actually contribute to your therapy practice, and how do they help your clients' lives
Wow.
day in, day out?
Well, I just want to piggyback on part of what you were saying. When I first found out about tapping, I felt like, well, number one, I felt like I took to it like a duck takes to water. Like I had been waiting for this and waiting for this and waiting for this, because I can help clients get open and really be open to what they're feeling, but to really help them release it and resolve it, we didn't have a lot of tools for doing that, even I would say even some forms of therapy today still don't have a lot of tools for helping people to do that, right? So, and one of the things that excited me the most about it from a community perspective was how empowering it is. That once a person knows it, then and uses it, like when you realize that you can release negative charge, using an energetic phrase, in a very short amount of time, then you can, it's like that's something we never knew. We didn't grow up knowing that if I'm feeling bad, there's something that I can do to not avoid it, to not shut it down, to not act it out, but to actually release it so I move back into a more centered, empowered, positive state. And that to me is absolutely transformative. So you asked me, with my clients, what the difference. And when I first started doing it, I actually first started doing energy psychology about 20 years ago. And what I found was that it transformed everything. It transformed my own life. It transformed my practice, because I came out and said, this is what I do. I do this energy work, when a lot of people felt like, oh, I can't talk about that. And I came out and said, this is what I do. So all of a sudden people were like, I want what you've got, because that's really interesting. But more importantly, in a way, is that it really transformed my clients' lives. And at that point, I'd been working with some clients particularly clients who had a lot of developmental trauma, childhood trauma, and helping them as best I could. But where I really noticed the big difference was with some of these clients who had complex post-traumatic stress, disorder or issues, and were really kind of struggling just to maintain. And the tapping just not only did it help them have more energy and be more positive and begin to do things in their life they had not been able to motivate themselves to do, was incredible. But the thing that I remember, one client particularly who was like, oh my God, it feels like I'm coming back together again. Like inside, like I'm feeling like almost like I'm knitting back into more wholeness. And she was like wide-eyed and amazed by the experience. And actually, went on. I mean, it took some time. She'd been really, really pretty challenged as an adult too. But she went on to be able to do things in her life she never thought she'd be able to do. So.
That's beautiful. And it's much like my own personal experience with tapping as well. So yeah, yep. That's why I took classes and started learning how to do it, because it was so powerful and profound. So I love that that's been your experience as well in your practice. So we were going to talk about what your favorite go-to tool is. Mm-hmm. But we also talked about a series that you do with people. So I'm going to let you choose which one of those you'd like to share. But before we get into the sharing of a practical tool, I'd like to know in what ways do you use it for yourself personally, and what's been most profound for you?
Well, so when I first started learning tapping, I actually for a long time, I said to people, like, I think for the first 6 years, I tapped every single day. It's like, like I said, I took to it like a duck takes to water. And I realized that all these little ways that I felt out of balance or upset about this or worried about that or stressed about this or angry about that, like I could tap on it. And of course, being a therapist, I was tapping immediately with almost all my clients. So, that really helped me get more into the routine of it. So I have used it a lot, and I guess that's an understatement. And I also use it to change beliefs, and I've used it on a lot of beliefs. But every time a belief comes up, there's a certain pattern that's a little different from the tapping pattern, the basic tapping pattern, that I use to reverse a belief. So I can reverse the energy and kind of let the positive version of that belief, like the big one is I'm not enough, right? I mean, variations on a theme, that's like the big negative theme that blocks people, limits them, makes them feel small and insignificant and all those kinds of things. So if we think about reversing it, what we're doing is being able to step in or feel open up from inside this actual experience of I am enough, right? I am more than enough for everything I could ever do, want, or be, or have, right? I mean, that's sort of my mantra about that. And so when you shift that, like your experience in life shifts. So there's that. So I think, I don't think I could point to any one thing particularly other than to say, and especially now in this COVID time, I've noticed that the resilience that I have in this time kind of surprises me. And really, I'm like, my ability to stay centered in the moment and to focus on possibility, and also to be kind of aware, because of some of these things I'm doing, that people are really struggling, and being there to help people struggle is like, or help people not struggle, but help people with those struggles and overcome them. It just kind of blows my mind. Like, wow, and so I've just kind of been looking back going, this is really pretty incredible. The cumulative effect, there are ways that you can have an immediate effect and impact. But I'm just really aware right now of the cumulative effect and how transformative it is, and so many levels and layers and ways in my life. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's one of the biggest ways that it was effective for me too. And it's such a universal message that I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that's perfect. That's beautiful. So let's go into the tools. What would you like to share with folks today?
Okay. Well, I have two main tools that are my go-to tools. We're hearing probably people talk more about for emotional first aid tools, right? And so this idea that when we're feeling something, instead of being overwhelmed by it or overcome by it or absorbed, immersed in it, that much of the time we can actually kind of pull ourselves back from the brink by using, one of these first aid tools. So my two go-tos are these. The first one is almost always what is called the thymus thumb, and what you can tap with the pads of your fingers, or make a soft fist and tap kind of like a gorilla, right? I mean, the reason this is probably exactly why gorillas did this, because you tap on this, and so you're tapping on your sternum. Underneath your sternum is your thymus, which is the master gland for the lymph system. And it's like the heart of the lymph system. And tapping on it appears to plump it up. The thymus gland actually constricts and sort of shrivels with stress. It's one of the first, as I understand it, it's one of the first, or if not the first, organ in the body to respond to stress. So it shrivels, but this tapping on it puffs it up, it plumps it up. And what the experience feels like, build it like resilience, like I suddenly feel stronger, right? And so, of course, the gorillas, you know, how stereotypic that is, I don't know, but you know, that image of gorillas just pounding on their chest, you know, and then they go off and or go into whatever they're going into. So this is very strengthening. And so if somebody, for example, somebody is really upset and they feel like they can't talk without crying, and then the crying, then all the attention goes to trying to shut down the feeling so I don't cry, right? So then we get out of touch with what we're feeling. If you do this thymus thump while you're feeling that urge or you are crying, what happens is that it strengthens you so that you can stay in the feeling. And it becomes, and you can experience it like a wave, which is what an emotion is. It's a wave, right? And it builds up, and sometimes it crests really intensely, right? And then it just pours down over you, right? But it always recedes. So when you're doing this, you can stay in that feeling, you can keep talking, you can keep being present, and you're not shutting the feeling down, which just is mostly what we know how to do. And it keeps us from being able to release it and move on. So it's just really powerful. It brings people who are starting to have anxiety attacks, do this. If it's you just do this yourself, and it helps you calm down. If it's somebody else, you can suggest to them that they do that and maintain eye contact with them, and they will come right out of an anxiety attack, which is really helpful and probably even more helpful these days. So that's the empowering, strengthening, I can do this one. The other one, and people refer to this by a number of different names, and there's all kinds of variations on a theme, but the way I do it, so I think of it as heart tapping. And so what I do is I put my palms together, one on top of the other for energetic purposes. And then I'm laying them on my high heart. But I'm laying them, which is this space, you know, like above our heart, right below our collarbones. And I'm applying some pressure, because that applying pressure is like a weighted blanket. When we feel overwhelmed, that feeling of overwhelm comes from right here. It's like, I feel exposed. I feel like I can't contain this. It's too big, right? And so just doing this is like, oh, it just contains that energetically. So that's a good start for that. And then if you're tapping, I like to tap and have people tap bilaterally, one side and the other. And my fingers are touching the bottoms of my collarbones, right? So this is activating trigger points. It's activating meridian system. It's activating energy, you know, the meridian or the chakras. I mean, there's lots of things that are happening when we do this. And if I'm not talking all the time and we just do it, you begin to feel yourself calm down. So this is very, very soothing and very calming. And so if you think about anxiety, we have two parts. We've got that feeling like, you know, like I can't do it, I'm going to fall apart. And so the first one strengthens, and sometimes that feels more appropriate. And this one really soothes. And softens, and sometimes that's more appropriate. And oftentimes I think doing the thymus thump first and then going to this are like a good 1-2 first aid tactic. So those are my two go-tos for when I'm feeling anxious in the moment, when I find myself feeling on edge, when I feel like I'm about to cry, when I've just been really startled or it's shocked, right? There's another time that it's good to do both of these too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, those are perfect. And I have not done the thymus thump by itself a whole lot. Over, you know, every so often when I'm with somebody and they lead me through it, but I'm going to remember that in coming days, because I think I think that's the important thing to recognize, is that our emotions are temporary. Mm-hmm. And yet they get stuck in our body when we shut it down and we don't let those emotions flow through. So yeah, I love, you described that beautifully.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Good. And I like, you're saying that the emotions get stuck in our body. Like that's how we've kind of, I don't know, that's the strategy we've assimilated like through our lives, or, when we're little and our nervous system's trying to adapt to stresses that it doesn't have the enough development to do more with, right? And yet that holds it in, and all kinds of issues kind of come from that. So
yeah, it creates the stress in our body, and it can turn into physical chronic pain, or it can be just, a nagging temporary pain until we figure out how to get it to move through our body. But this really prevents that from even being able to take root or take shape in our body. So that's what I love about it. So is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we wrap it up for today?
I do want to let people know some of the things that I've been putting out there to help people navigate this really, in many ways, unprecedented time, right? This time of change. I've been referring to it as a portal, because a portal reflects both the fact that it's, you're kind of changing from one reality to a new reality. And in that change, regardless of what realities we're changing, it's dynamic, it's rapid, it's chaotic, and chaos can mean various levels of pain and trauma as we go through it. And on the other side, there's always a new reality that flowers new possibilities, right? So this is a time of both, really significant pain for vast numbers of people, financial pain, people losing people that they care about and people they love, and all the fear that's gotten generated. Those are some of the major things I think that are happening, and the stress from these changes in our lives and the difficulties. But so I have on my Facebook page and on my website, both Holly Timberlake, hollytimberlake.com, and then Holly Timberlake on my Facebook. I have done a series so far of 5 different videos that are all about different aspects as we've been going through this experience. They're all tapping videos for people to tap on the different kinds of things that they're experiencing. And they're free to everybody. I love to have them spread as much as possible. People are finding them really helpful. So I want listeners to know about that. One thing I would add quickly is that with that, like we're all dealing with this COVID portal, right? We're all feeling some kind of stress about it in 5 or more ways. I don't know, it's like it's impacting us in multiple ways. And it's going to be exacerbating other issues and triggering past traumas, right? So unhealed past traumas are getting triggered. We also know that in terms of domestic violence, there's an increase and an upsurge in domestic violence around the world right now because of a number of factors that are contributing to that. So people can be experiencing more physical, verbal, emotional abuse, sexual abuse as well as we go through this time. And so as you're tapping on some of these other things, if you go to these videos, know that just by feeling and being in touch with some of the other things that are really impacting you, that you will help to be able, this will help to release the effects of those so that you'll be able to deal with whatever it is you need to deal with in your life with more present focus, with more empowerment, with more clarity of thought and strength and all of those things. So,
yep, we have to unstress our brain out. We have to bring it out of survival mode to be able to move forward, make good choices. Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing your resources and your wisdom and your strength today. And I really have appreciated serving on the FREA board for a couple of years. And it doesn't surprise me at all, Holly, that you are strong and resilient at a time like this. So I appreciate that about you a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. And I, love you being on the board, and what you bring. There's so much strength you bring. Really, that there are ways that you've been really inspiring to me. It's like, look at her, like she's just got this positive attitude. I'm like, all right, like, so I mean, there are times we get off the calls and I really do feel empowered and inspired by you. So,
oh, thank you. That's beautiful. And I think that that's what we do for each other in the space of being on the committee for FREA. And as I said, we're a working committee because we're all avidly out there in our own communities and in our own ways, getting the energy psychology tools out, and the resilience that builds out of it. That's what's so empowering for me. So thank you again for your time. And I want to, make this a good wrap up so that it's easy for people to sit and watch and gain your wisdom from. So thank you so much.
And yours too. Yours too.
All right.
You're welcome, and thank you. Good.
I'll let you stop recording.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's on your end.
It is on my end. So here we go. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.